everybody, this is Eric Warren. Welcome to NetworkMarketingPro.com. I'm here in Dallas, Texas with my good friend, Lisa Grossman. We haven't seen each other for a long time, but we've known each other for how long now? I mean, when was it?
20 years.
20 years ago? Back when you were just a baby.
Oh, he's so sweet.
And I was just a baby, and we were just getting started in the network marketing profession. I think we both got started the same year.
Same year, same company.
But Lisa has made over $1 million a year in our profession, does incredibly well. One of these powerhouse women, because when you take a look at the Direct Selling Association statistics, women dominate when it comes to the involvement inside of our profession.
They do, but in this country, 75% of the volume is done by the women, but not 75% of the top checks. But we're working on that.
Why is that?
You know, overseas that's not the case, but this is America. It's still a little bit of a good old boys club, but we're coming.
Are you coming? Okay.
We're coming.
All right, fair enough. Good. Well, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. She's got a very colorful kind of 20 years of very interesting stories, lots of good lessons to learn, and I think you're going to enjoy this process. We were chatting for the last hour prior to turning this camera on, and maybe we should have just turned the camera on while we were chatting for the last hour, but anyway, let's go back to the very beginning. Okay, I like the thought process because a lot of these people, the people who are watching here, they want to become professionals inside of network marketing. They want to learn this, do it well, and that's why I like to have the people who've made $1 million a year on the show, because there's no posers there. There's nobody pretending. You know, if you've made $1 million a year in network marketing, you know your stuff. You didn't get lucky, or there wasn't just a one-hit wonder. You really got to know your stuff. For everybody has a beginning. Some of the people watching the show are just getting involved or just starting to build their careers. Everybody has a beginning. Tell us about your beginning. When did you first get exposed to this profession? What was your thought process? How did it all happen?
1989, my aunt called, and she was so excited she had something to show me. She came over, she hooked up a piece of plastic to my sink and proceeded to explain to me that this was going to change life as we all knew it and make her rich.
And it was a water filter.
It was a water filter. And she asked me if I would use it for a week and let her know, and it was going to make the water taste better. My cats were going to love it. Everybody's going to love the water. And we did. And I needed to watch it on a videotape. And I have to tell you, the videotape was exciting. The water tasted better. And I was so lost as to how that water filter was going to turn into all this money. And I bought it from her, and I said, how much did you make? And she said, $79. And I'm like, you're going to have to sell an awful lot of these, aren't you, to make all that money? And she said, you'll come to the meeting. And I was not excited about that.
And before you get to the meeting part, did the videotape, I think I saw the same videotape you saw.
Yes.
The opening music was da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
And water
limousines
everywhere.
were coming in and doing all the stuff, and everybody was making a ridiculous amount of money.
And that was back when they could tell you all the ridiculous money everybody was making.
They were putting all these claims out there, incredible, over-the-top amounts of income from average people. I saw the same thing you did. And the video tape back then was duplicated like 10 times. So it was all grainy, and I was like, come on.
Pretty much.
It didn't seem real to me.
Not at all. Did you believe it?
I did not believe it. I was highly skeptical. But then the people who were asked me to look at it told me they were going to do it with or without me, and then I eventually decided to get involved and change my life for the better. But so they invited you to a meeting.
Oh yeah, and I went to the meeting, and it was at the Richardson Civic Center, and I was dreading it.
Here in Dallas.
Here in Dallas. Okay. But it was my aunt, and trust me, anybody with a relative that I liked, because there are relatives I don't like, but her I happen to love, I would have avoided it. And I didn't want to go because I thought, what if somebody sees me there? Network marketing was not really accepted back then like it is now. But I was kind of comforted by the fact that if I saw them, they would see me. So, maybe nobody would talk about it. Right. I got there, and I was just sitting through this thing, and I was like this, and I was looking at the floor, and when is this going to be over? And at the end, I said, is anybody who's making money, stand in line and come tell your story? And they were just lined up, because there were like 500 people at this meeting. And one story after another with the checks and the income. And when it was over, I called my husband, and I said, Steve, it is the goofiest thing I have ever seen. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they have people here, they are uglier than us, they are dumber than us, they are making more money than us, and they travel and they're having fun, and we need to do this. And I hung up. Because I thought I lost my mind, and by the time I thought maybe I'm not so crazy, I went home, and he assured me that yes, I was indeed that crazy. But we did it anyway.
So when you got involved, I mean, a lot of people, when they first get involved in network marketing, they get involved because it's like a lottery ticket, kind of. You know, they're hoping to get lucky. They're hoping to get timing and positioning. They're hoping that maybe if they bring in a couple neighbors or friends, and they could sit back and be on easy street. As you know, it doesn't end up that way. I mean, it might start that way. I mean, you join because you see these other people making money, but then eventually you have to become a professional. You have to learn some skills. You have to become talented. But here's my question to you. When you first started, what were the lessons that you learned in maybe the first 90 days? I mean, what was that experience like, and what were the lessons that you learned?
Well, the first thing I did was I got my product. And I did, you know, what was done with me. I ran on and I hooked up all my water filters to people I knew, and I sold them all. Which is good. You should always go out and move the product. But I moved all my product. I had all my $79 profits. Now I was out of product. I had no group and no $1 million yet. And I'm like, what do I do now?
Right.
And I was totally lost. So then I thought, well, I have to recruit other people to do the same thing. So I went and recruited all these people who did not go out and move all.
So how many people did you recruit?
I hadn't recruited any yet.
Let's say in the first 90 days, did you recruit?
Oh, yeah. Then I went to recruit.
How about how many?
Like 50.
50?
Yeah.
How did you recruit 50 people?
That was my problem. It's eminently unduplicatable.
So you recruited a bunch of people, then they didn't do anything?
Not at all.
First of all, everybody watching this program would love to recruit 50 people and then figure out the second problem.
You think that, but not necessarily.
Okay, so how did that...
Because that brought a whole host of problems. I recruited all the wrong people.
Was that back in the cold market days? You're running ads?
No, they were all people that I knew.
Wow.
So now I have 50 people that I knew with
And you were-
$5,000
and you
in
were
water
20 years
filters.
old?
Oh, you're so sweet. No, 27. Which now you know how old I am, audience.
Sorry.
But my birthday's up on Facebook, so that's okay.
I didn't mean to get all the way there. But so you're in your mid-20s, and you're able to recruit 50 people?
Mm-hmm.
How?
Well, I had a good story, and then I'd actually sold all my product.
Because you sold your product.
So I had 50 times $79. Actually, I think I made 120 because you came in at $5, whatever.
So you made a little bit more money. You made some money.
The problem was, now I had 50 people, all who had $5,000 of product, none of them sold any, and I knew them all. So now they're all mad at me. So there is that problem. So don't recruit people unless they want to go to work. That was my first lesson.
So you threw them in, you basically sold 50 lottery tickets. They didn't come in for those people, and now you're like,
I didn't realize I sold 50 lottery tickets, but they were under the impression that somehow by getting in, great things were going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was used to going to work. I never expected great things to happen if you didn't go do the work.
Right.
They somehow did. So now I felt guilty and obligated.
A lot of people set people up with, innocently enough,
And it was
with
back
false
then.
expectations. And then when those expectations don't live up to, the promise of it, then, now you got some fallout to deal with.
Yeah, so now I had that. So then, I tried to help all those people sell all their product, and that was a nightmare. And I was said, okay, obviously I've done something wrong. So I did what I should have done in the first place. I went to get help. But my aunt at this point had already quit, which is the first lesson of network marketing. When you get involved, be very grateful that the person who introduced you to it showed you something with which you can change your life.
Right.
And if that's all they ever do, which often is all they will ever do, be grateful for that and go look for the person who's going to help you after they're gone, which could be 5 minutes after they introduced you to it.
Right. And I did a show a little while back called Say Goodbye to Your Upline.
Yeah, exactly.
Just say thanks for introducing me. They're not responsible for your success or failure.
But, luckily I was here in Dallas.
Yeah, okay.
And
So
we had a lot of talent here in Dallas with that
some
company.
people, right.
And I went and I met them all. And what I've learned, and this is a neat thing, and successful people, they are really anxious. Once they know they've made it, and once they've made a lot of money, you know what they love? They love to pass it on.
Yeah.
So if you'll find them when they're not busy, and you'll sit down and you'll
They're
ask
accessible.
questions and listen, they will absolutely teach you. And
Well,
I
they
was
won't
a
do it
sponge.
for you, but
No,
they'll
but they will
teach you.
teach you. And I was a sponge. And I got great mentors, a ton of them. Still
All right,
friends today.
so chapter 1, you bring a bunch of people in. And
Chapter 2, start over.
And chapter 2, start over.
Get a new list.
Right. So you got a new list, and then chapter 2, you started over. What did you do different in chapter 2?
Instead of trying to recruit 50, which was impossible to work with, I went looking for 5 I could turn into 5,000.
Okay. So you bring in 5 and then help them, and then bring in another 5 and then help them?
Pretty much. That was my goal, was to find 5 who were willing to go to work. And I went through probably 15 or 20 the second time around to find 5 that would go to work. But once you find one that's willing to go to work, I didn't worry about, I need 5. If I had one that was ready, I ran with that person. I was more worried about them getting 5 than me getting 5.
Right.
Because once you chase the fire.
Right.
And once then I would go find another and another and another. And eventually that worked out real well. And I think within about 90 days when I started chapter 2, I was a 5th dimension.
Yep.
I was a 5th dimension. And then it was
Starfleet Commander.
Yeah.
So yes. So you did that in your first year?
I did that in my first 120 days. But then you had to wait 6 months to qualify.
I'm so irritated with you. I mean, it took me so long to get to that same spot at that level, but you were a little older than me.
I know, there you go, I was long.
But man, that's a very impressive.
But I was in Dallas.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Look at the meetings we had to read 30
Geography,
NMDs in Dallas.
geography doesn't matter, but there was some leadership here. You could kind of draft off that.
I put everybody in front of them.
Okay, so
Which was lesson 3. Don't
Yeah.
become the issue. I
lesson-
was the
well,
issue
lesson
in
3.
chapter 1.
Okay, you were the issue in chapter 1. In chapter 2,
I wasn't the issue. I put them in front of all those NMDs.
Yeah, you put them in front of other leaders within the organization. You got people involved in third party, whether it was an event or a conference call, or had them look at videotapes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't be the issue. I should have learned that first, but I didn't. I was the issue, and I wasn't duplicable. And people made it. It was my responsibility, not theirs, and I stopped being the issue.
Okay, so you learned fast, because most people would repeat the lessons of phase 1, like I did, 6 or 7 times.
Well, no,
build a group, kill the group. 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 Then you go, maybe this is wrong. Maybe I should not kill the group. Maybe there's a better way. And then you go talk to somebody who does it right, and then you learn how to build a group and help the group continue to grow. That's a different. I mean, you learned so fast. Like I say, that is highly uncommon.
I had a secret weapon.
What?
Well, I'm a girl, and a lot of the NMDs were guys, and when you show up crying because all your friends are calling, screaming at you because you sampled $5,000
use the sympathy card?
filters, I used the sympathy card to get help. Yes, I did.
I like it. But whether it's a sympathy card or if you just go with humility to the leadership within your organization, you're highly teachable and coachable, you're going to get help.
Always.
If you're looking for it, you'll get it. Now, if you go to your point complaining, or if you go to the leadership within your organization and be blaming everybody else for your problems, you're not going to get a lot of help. But if you come with humility and coachability, and you're a student, the teacher will appear for sure.
Well, I think the first thing that I noticed about the business once I got involved in it and engaged in it, if everybody has the same company, the same product, the same comp plan, the same opportunity, if something isn't working, you have to accept right off the bat that while it's not your fault, it is your challenge to fix.
Right.
Because if they can do it, you can do it. You just have to find out what it is you're not doing to make it work as quickly and as seamlessly as it can.
Yeah.
And that was it for me. Is like I can learn. They're doing it. They're not smarter than me. The only thing they have on me is time and experience. I've got time. They'll help me with their experience.
Okay, so without kind of the company that we were with hit a wall, as we know, and that happens from time to time in the profession. They eventually reinvented themselves. They became a company called Juice Plus, very successful company today.
Incredible.
But at the time, they had not made that transition, and I don't necessarily want to go through the process of where you went and who you went to, and that's not important.
Actually, I left the industry.
What I want to talk about is the lessons. What were the lessons that you continue to learn? Because inside of that first company, what was the highest income you had in a year?
In a year, I don't really last a full year in that company. But I think in that experience, money in minus money I spent, I don't know. I think I made like $125,000.
So it's big money.
It was
Big money.
It was.
And then you stayed in the profession for a while, right?
No, actually, I left the industry for probably 3 years.
Okay.
3 years.
You did some other things, and then you
Did some other
got
things.
back in.
Sort of. My husband sort of got us back in, actually.
Okay.
I came home one day and my living room was filled with noisemakers because somebody had stopped by and sold, showed him something and he didn't tell me.
Security product company.
That would be correct.
Yeah.
I made my whole neighborhood refrigerators around Texas. I made them safe.
Yep, and that's uncannily enough, that's the same company I ended up with.
There was a lot of that going on.
In 1992. So anyway, got involved with that company. Additional lessons, as you started to move through the ranks, what were some of the things you needed to learn in order to be able to make the bigger money? Because eventually you got yourself to over $1 million a year. What were some of the things that you learned in doing that?
I started to learn that the industry, when I first got in, I didn't take network marketing seriously. I thought it was fun. It was sort of different. But I didn't really understand what it was or what it could mean to people. And I'm not sure that that company really crystallized that for me either. But later on, because of some of the experiences I'm sure you want to talk about that I had, I really started to understand the power of network marketing and that it really was the last frontier of free enterprise and the American dream. And I just, when I got it and a light bulb went on in my head and I realized I could literally change the world, it changed everything.
Yeah, it changed everything for you.
Everything.
All right, so let's talk. We were talking over the last hour, and a lot of this that I'd never heard before, but I do want you to share with everybody. You had, you're in a family business. You made some bad choices in the middle of the 19.
I was in a family business.
1990s?
Actually, the same family business that I ran away from to that first network marketing company.
Yeah, he was in a family business. And why don't you just kind of explain what happened and the end result?
Well, I left that family business.
Pretty dramatic.
I left that family business. I was still in it in that first company and actually went back to it after that. And for a variety of reasons, we sold that business. But shortly thereafter, that business, along with a lot of other businesses that were in similar enterprise, came under investigation of the federal government. It was a family-owned business, and in 1994, maybe 95, I was actually indicted, along with my mother. And before, everybody's probably questioning what it was for, and what it was for really isn't that important. Suffice to say, it had nothing to do with network marketing, so nobody out there needs to worry about that. And I was there, and nobody held a gun to my head. I certainly made bad choices. I don't think I was involved in some great big enterprise or criminal conspiracy, but I certainly was there, and I make no excuses for that. But went through a long process with the government, and there comes a point in time, Eric, when it's the federal government, the United States government versus you, it really doesn't come down to, are you going to fight, or can I win or lose? It comes down to making the best deal that you can live with. And there came a point in time when my husband was indicted, and all these things transpired, that I made a choice that was the best decision I could make for my family. And that choice was that I elected to arrive at an arrangement with the government where I could go away to a club fed for a year and leave my husband home with my children, my mother, who was not getting any younger, could pay a huge fine, but she could stay out of that circumstance. And I could go do that time for a year and come out and have my life back. And after evaluating it, that seemed to be the only decision to make, because had I fought and won, which, by the way, was unlikely because the government tends to win 98% of their cases, and that's the government, the downside was a potential loss of going there for something like 7 years.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
7 years versus 1, no brainer.
Okay, so...
And I left in May of 97.
It was a nice prison, but you went to prison for a year.
Oh, yeah. Federal prison camp, club fed, I did. And I can tell you today, a decade later, best thing that ever happened to me.
Now, I want to hear about that, because traumatic experience. You say goodbye to your family.
I do.
And you...
off I go.
Off you go, and
that's...
What happened during that 12 months, and what did it do?
Well, first of all, it's very much like our industry. All the lessons that we try to teach in our industry all make sense to me.
Prison is very much like our industry.
No.
I see how it is.
It's the personal development.
First you join, and then they put the handcuffs on, and then they say you can't go across the line, otherwise you'll be shot.
I'll explain.
Okay.
I will.
Okay.
Well, no, seriously, it's all the lessons that we teach. First off, we all like to think that we're the center of the universe.
Right.
And the hardest lesson I learned when I first got there is, you're going to find this very shocking, but would you believe that life goes on?
Yeah.
That the world around you, it's like, what's going to happen to everybody while I'm gone? And oh my God, the sun rises, people go to school, and it does go on without you. So that's a humbling experience. When you get into prison, it's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter where you came from. I was very lucky, and I started to realize how lucky I was. I had a family. I didn't lose my home. I paid a minimal fine, but I didn't lose my cars. I didn't lose some people, they lose everything, and they have nothing. But you get in there, and everybody has the same clothes. Everybody starts the same on day one. Everybody gets a job. Everybody has the shoe. Everybody has the same things. It says somewhat like our industry, everybody starts at the bottom, right? Doesn't matter what you did yesterday. You could be a truck driver, you could be a CEO, but everybody gets to start here and work their way to the top. That's what I mean.
Right.
So I get in there, and for 3 months, I was wallowing in self-pity. As a matter of fact, I took it to an art form. And some people, so you take all these people, you put them in the exact same situation. There were people that were productive, positive, making the best of it, walking the track, doing great things, making it happen every day. And there were people that were whining, crying, miserable and everything.
Right.
There were people that had a lot of time, but you'd never know it because they were helping everybody, making everybody's day better just by being a part of it. There were people that were energy vampires. They would enter a room and they would drain it. Does this remind you of anything you know? Does this sound familiar? I found that I was a lot more of a whiner and miserable for the first 3 months than I was, like the people that I respected. And that bothered me when I realized it. So I said, this isn't me. So one day I was walking around the track and I met a really wonderful girl. Her name was Kim. I'll leave last names out of it to protect the privacy of those who don't like to talk about their life story. And I asked her, how is it that you do this? You have such a great attitude. I just don't get it. And she said to me, how much time do you have left? I said, 9 months. She said, in 9 months, you're going to have a choice to make. Because you have a choice to make about the next 9 months. Because 9 months is going to come whatever happens. She said, 9 months from now, do you want to look back on this experience and look back on yourself and say, I whined, I cried, I was miserable, I accomplished absolutely nothing? Or do you want to look back and say, I had an experience. I did everything I could. I helped people. I made the most of it. I did positive things with my life. That made sense to me. So over the next 9 months, I really changed my attitude from that day forward. I said, you know what? I've never run 5 miles. I think I'd like to do that. By the way, folks, I never run around the block.
Right.
So I also learned you can't run 5 miles the first day. You'll pass out and croak. I remember walking the track, running a quarter of a mile, running one length of a mile, running the first mile, running the second mile, trying to run 3 too quickly. That's what I mean by it's like the industry. You don't run 5 miles. It took me 8 months to work up to running 3.5, and I never made 5 because the weather changed. But here's the thing. If I hadn't started, I never would have run 3.5. And that's also like our industry. You don't have to be good to start, but you have to start if you ever want to be any good. And if you want to be a good professional, be really prepared to be a really bad amateur, because that's how you get good. You do everything wrong till you do everything mediocre, till you do everything good, till you do everything really well. Want to do a good meeting? Do 50 really bad meetings. You'll do a good one. So went back to what I knew. Network marketing taught me a lot about personal development. I started teaching it. I taught a literacy meeting. I started a literacy program, getting inmates to teach other inmates how to teach them each other how to read. It made me feel really good. It helped other people.
Did a lot of
it
reading.
Spread. We spend our lives saying, if I had time, I'd do this. If I had time, I'd do that. So I always said, if I had time, I would read X. And I read it all. I was going to read a book a day. Some days I read 2. I read the Bhagavad Gita. I read everything Siddhartha wrote. I read Buddha's great works. I read the Book of Mormon. I read the Book of Abraham. I read the Pearl of Great Price. I read the Bible 16 times, 5 different translations. Some are more interesting than others. And it was just really a fascinating time. I journaled, which I had never done.
So you turned it around. Right? So
Yeah.
you found yourself in this process.
It's funny. It's exactly it. I found myself for the first time probably in my life in that process.
So now you're getting ready to be released.
Yes, and I'm excited.
And they have this little, exit class that they
Oh.
hold. So
Good intentions.
So talk about that.
Okay, and I equate this back. Eric did a tape years ago that I to this day listen, and it's called.
She told you. You told me you had this, and I got to get a copy because I don't even remember it.
He recorded a tape called "The Day That You Turn Your Life Around," and it talks about when everything starts to click because you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and everything clicks and it turns around for you. That happened for me in that experience. But he also talks about the laws of association. When you get around the wrong thinking and negative thinking, how it can bring you down. Well, this day, they send you to this group presumably to help you get in the right frame of mind to go home. I was in a great frame of mind when I walked into this meeting to sit down, all these girls, also in a pretty good frame of mind, and in walk these do-gooders. I'm sure their intentions were wonderful. And they started asking me questions like, hey, have you ever thought about the fact that it's possible when you go home nobody will ever speak to you? That you won't get a job? That you'll live under a bus, under a dock somewhere, or under a viaduct in a box? Or that your family will never speak to you, or that your kids won't want to know you?
Or you can't get a job, or you can't...
Oh, by the time I was like, no, I've never considered that. By the time I left this meeting, I was a basket case. Now, in this process of being there for a year, there was an Army chaplain, and she was tough as nails, but she was perfect, tough love kind of person for this type of a situation because she was blunt and she called it the way she saw it, and I really enjoyed her. By the time I went through 24 hours the next morning after having all this ruminate for the evening, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I was a basket case. I was hysterical, so I went to see her, and by the time she came in, I had been waiting. I was like shaking. And shaking, she's like, Grossman, what's the matter with you? I'm like, I'm going to be living under a box in a viaduct and no one's going to talk to me and I'll never have a job. She's like, what the heck has happened to you? And she said to me, I don't like to solve other people's problems for them. She goes, of course I can, but I find it doesn't stick. But I'm in a hurry. I have no time for this. Come in here. I'm going to solve your life for you and then you're going to go away and never bother me again. And she brought me in and she said, Grossman, you're a business mind. So I'm going to put this in business terms for you to make it simple so you'll go away and leave me alone. She said, sit down right here and listen very carefully. She said, you've always run your life like it's a sole proprietorship, and I have news for you, it isn't. She said, it's a partnership, and this is going to really upset you because you're not the senior partner, although you like to think you are. She said, you're the junior partner. She said, you know what happens in business when the partners get their roles mixed up? The business goes to hell in a handbasket. She said, so I'm going to tell you what the jobs are. You are the junior partner, and every day you have one job. You get up, you shower up, you shine up, you suit up, and you show up with a smile on your face and a belief that if you do what you're supposed to do with integrity and a belief in your heart that everything's going to work out, your senior partner will take care of everything else. Do that, and I promise you, in 3 years, you will have built yourself an empire, everything will take care of itself, and you'll have more success than you ever dreamed possible. And it sounded a little bit fluffy to me.
So,
but
the senior partner being?
Oh, yeah, your senior partner will take care of everything else. Obviously, your higher power, whichever one you subscribe to, listening, viewing audience. It sounded, I've always believed in the higher power, but the solution sounded a little bit fluffy. But I'm like, I was such a basket case, I'm like, okay, why not? And pretty much when I got home, that's how I chose to live my life.
Now, here's an interesting lesson, because I love that story. And sometimes a person shows up in your life for a particular reason.
Always, I think.
And you have this little defining moment where you could go, you could have gone home and said, I can't build a business because no one will listen to me. I can't build a business because I've been in jail. I can't build a business. I don't have any credibility. And, how do you expect me to do anything when I have self-esteem problems that maybe I have, or all this other kind of stuff? You could have done that. And you know what? A lot of people watching this program, they've been wallowing in the same thing. They've been sitting there saying, how do you expect me to succeed with my circumstances? How do you expect me to succeed based upon my life experience? And what I like about the life lesson that was learned, and maybe that's the whole reason why you went, is to be able to kind of repurpose and redefine your life and be back in a situation where it was hopeful. Because, if everybody that is watching this followed the same advice, which is what? Every day you what?
Get up,
yep.
Shower up, shine up, suit up, and show up with a smile on your face and act with integrity and a belief that if you do what you're supposed to, it will all work out. And you know what, Eric? It did, and it does.
Yeah. So a good lesson for everybody watching is to do the same. Go out there and release the limiting beliefs. of everything else and all the inner talk that maybe will talk you out of your success in your future.
Well, here's something interesting. You said the word, to me, I don't know what the right term for this is, but I think the biggest misnomer of all is the word credibility. I think credibility is a word people use as an excuse to not do things. I hate the word. Credibility is a crock. Okay? Because what is credibility? I found that being straight with people and doing what you say you're going to do is all the credibility you ever need to get anybody to follow you anywhere. If you do what you say you're going to do, people will listen. When I build a business, I don't like people that tell me they're going to set the world on fire and they get excited for 3 weeks and then you never see them again. I would rather have the guy who says, Lisa, I'm going to give you 5 hours a week. If that's all, and he gives me 5 hours a week consistently and shows up for a year for 5 hours a week, I'll show you a guy who'll be there year 3 and he'll be full-time making a fortune. Mm-hmm. Do what you say you're going to do and people will follow you. Right. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things when I train is my favorite story. That's all people want, because most people don't do what they say they're going to do. You have kids, right?
Yep.
Your kids play sports.
Yep.
All right, my daughter plays soccer. And think about, everybody says they love Joe. Joe's the soccer coach. If Joe called you and said, we're having a special practice, 9 a.m., Tuesday morning, have your son there, and you showed up, everybody shows up, all the parents are there, no Joe. Joe doesn't call. You may love Joe. What are the chances you're ever going to let Joe coach your kid again?
Right.
None. But if people do what they say they're going to do, that's all you're going to do. Just do what you say you're going to do. I learned with people when I got out, I told everybody my past. And it helped me. People figured if I was honest about that, what was I going to lie about? People want to help you. They like to help other people.
Everybody likes a comeback story. They like a redemption story.
And you know what? Nobody hasn't made a mistake.
Yeah.
I've never met a successful person that hasn't made a mistake. I've never met a successful person that hasn't had a failure. The only people that haven't had failure are people that have never tried, therefore they've never had success either.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, and I don't want you to get into any specific company or anything to talk about, any products or company, but you come out, you get released, what day do you get released?
May 18th, 1998.
19...
Yeah, this is 2009.
Yep. So 1998, May 17th.
18th.
May 18th.
You don't forget those days.
I understand. That's why I asked. So May 18th, 1998. And you have this new, get up
no
and
money,
shower up
but
and
a new attitude.
shine up and, all that stuff. And you no money, new attitude, and you decide that you're going to go out and you're going to get back into the network marketing profession. Mm-hmm. And how long did it take you to rebuild your life? And what did you do specifically, coming out with the story that you had at that moment? What did you do specifically to rebuild?
First thing I did was I went and I helped friends around town that were starting companies, consulting and things like that, because my first goal was to make $5,000 a month so that I could go ahead and help out with household bills and everything else, because we literally had no money.
So you did some consulting, and then you
and then some friends called to help, wanted some help starting a company, and we got the company structure done, and nobody thought the company had a chance. They could not get anybody that wanted to go out and sing the church for the company.
So you acted as a distributor.
So I said, okay,
you got involved as a distributor, and what did you do in order to be able to kind of build an organization? What were some of the steps that you took?
First off, I told the truth. Mm-hmm. Everybody, I told them it's a startup, and that's a risk. But I believe it's a risk we're taking.
Right.
And I really did. I believed in the people. I believed in the product. And I told people that it was going to be a bumpy ride. And that's what the mistake I think a lot of people make. If you go out and you tell people the truth,
you set expectations.
You set expectations where they need to be, rather than setting where you manage them. If you manage expectations, you'll have great success in business, I think.
Yeah.
And I think so many people are afraid to do that.
Yeah.
So that I manage expectations.
Let people know there's going to be work. Let people know that you're going to have to learn some new skills. Let people know that everything isn't going to be without difficulty.
Yeah, and let people know that when things are, if you are involved with, every company has advantages and disadvantages, if you want to look at the way, pros and cons at any point in its development. And you always have to manage the expectations no matter where it is. And I worked harder than I asked anybody else to work, and I think that's key. Don't ever ask anybody to do anything you're not willing to do yourself.
So, May 18th, 1999. Where, 1 year later, where are you at as far as income?
Well, on May 18th, we hadn't started that company.
Okay, so you're still consulting.
Consulting.
You're doing just kind of
things along. I was doing all right though. We started that company. I got that call in 2000.
Okay,
end of 2000.
So at the end of 2000, you start with that, and then what happens to your career?
Well, we launched that company. Well, the 8th week, and this is a true story. We launched that company, and it took off. And week number 8, I was standing in Southern California, and they called me from the home office, and they said, "Your check is $14,500 for the week."
For the week.
And I said, "Oh my God, my check is $14,500 for the week." And they said, "No, Lisa, your check is $45,000 for the week." And I'm here to tell you that Nokia phones, which I don't carry anymore, can survive anything, because that phone went up in the air 10 feet above my head and hit the floor and busted. $45,000 the 8th week of that company.
45,000. So the
Which
explosion
is
growth.
unbelievable to me.
Now.
Fluke.
Yeah, well, fluke.
Don't expect that.
Yeah,
Never
exactly.
won't happen.
Yeah. Well, so again, there are really no accidents. As you develop your skills and you kind of learn how to grow a business and attract people. What are some of your things that you found has worked best to attracting other people? You're recruiting other people, building a team. What are some of the things that really served you well? Yeah.
Taking it away. That has always been my trademark, and that has always worked for me. I don't ever beg people into a business. And here's the thing. I will push and push and push people to look, Eric.
Yeah, to understand.
To look at it, to know what they are saying no to. I believe that whatever company you're with, provided that it is a legitimate, solid opportunity, that most people today are not happy. I've not met many happy people. So when I do meet one occasionally, I leave them alone. But most people, it is my experience, are not happy for one reason or another. And if I have something that I believe might, and I underline the word might, be something that can help them, I push them to look at it. But if they look and it's not for them, I leave them alone. Which is typically how I get them to look, because that's what I tell them. What I have is a 1 in 20 chance that might be an answer for you. Look at it before you say no, and if it's not for you, I'll never bother you again. So I will push them to look, but I will never push them to do.
And then you'll take it away. I mean,
All the time.
you can say, you know what, it might not be for you.
Probably isn't for you.
Probably isn't for you.
Probably isn't for you.
So.
And that's the way I start. I'll call you up, I'll say, "Eric, what I've got, I'm sure you're going to love the product. The business probably isn't for you. I'm almost sure it isn't for you. But if there's a 1 in 100 chance that what I've got might be a solution for you, are you telling me, smart as you are, that you're going to say no out of hand without looking at it? I always thought you were much smarter than that. But you know what? I was wrong. That's okay. Won't bother you again. Bye." And then I wait 5 minutes for the phone to ring.
So if you want, you can rewind like 30 seconds, and you can play that over and over and over as a way to call somebody. It works, right?
Every time.
Yeah.
Or they never speak to me again.
You don't need to hang up on somebody.
I don't typically hang up on people, but
the real point is creating a situation where you say, you know what, I've got a product that's amazing. I've got a business that's awesome. It's probably not for you.
But you know what else has really worked for me? Something you taught me. You have a lot of mentors over the years, and you always remember people for 1 or 2 things that are specific to them. Your tape, which I still listen to, I recruit up. I do want to save everybody. I do. But you can't.
Right.
And what I've found is if you go after people that are very sharp and very bright, every really sharp, bright person can probably save 10 without being drowned.
Yeah.
So if you go after a really sharp, bright person, they'll save 10, and then the next sharp, bright person will save 10. And if you get enough sharp, bright people, they'll all save their share. So you got to really go after smart, sharp people instead of trying to save people that just really are not going to get it.
Right.
And that's what turned a lot of my businesses around, is when I started going after the brightest and the best.
Well, after the brightest and the best and taking it away.
And taking it away from them. Because if you take it away from people that aren't the brightest and the best, they don't even know you gave it to them to take it away. So that really doesn't work.
Okay. I forgot. That's the next question I was going to ask. All right. Let's back up and say, okay, so women. Women. A lot of women watching this program, and 50 countries around the world are watching this program.
I spent 5 years overseas.
Yeah, so you understand a global perspective. But women in general, as business builders, what advice, because what can I say to women, but what advice would you give to women when it comes to how to grow an organization, how to work with men, all that stuff? I'll sit back and let you talk.
Okay, women. When I got started in this industry, it was really a man's world. And I think women were at a disadvantage because it was really business, business, business. And I think the nurturing heart aspect of it put us at a little bit of a disadvantage. But it's a different world today. And I think and I hate to use these words, so I'll do it tongue in cheek, but it really is a kinder, gentler world that we live in today. So I think for the first time, women are really at an advantage in the network marketing arena because it has changed. And I think that the style that we build with today is really more, I think men are emulating women today in the network marketing arena. I think if you look at the presentations, I think if you look at the way that the business is presented, I think you'll see it's a lot less left brain than it used to be. I think it's got a lot more heart and soul to it. So as far as working with the men, do what you've always done. Continue to run the world. Let them think they're doing it. And go after the women because their time has come.
I like it. What mistakes do you see women making as they're building an organization?
Not standing up front. Just stand up and go after it.
Yeah,
What I saw in Asia, what's really amazing in Asia, particularly in China and in Taiwan and in those countries, is business is not only dominated by women over there as it is here in terms of being out there doing the majority of the volume. They are also dominating the upper echelons of the companies. And here, a lot of the companies, too many men walking across the stage in the top positions, too many of the people walking across the stage in the top positions to me are still men. Go after it because it's there for you. And don't be intimidated by it. Just go get it.
I like it. Well, good. We talk on the show about defining moments a lot. A moment that literally changed your career in the network marketing profession. Something where you could have taken a right turn or a left turn, and it would have completely changed your life. And I think you've described one of them already.
Yeah.
When you met with the chaplain.
My network marketing defining moment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's one that snapped into your head, because I've had dozens,
And there are so many.
If you could pick one, it doesn't have to be the one, but one that kind of comes to mind.
Oh, let me see what pops into my head just off the cuff. Okay. Well, there was the moment when I threw the phone up in the air. Hong Kong Convention Center, 2004, November. I'm afraid of heights, but they talked me into flying in to the Hong Kong Convention Center with 8,000 people there on these wires. And I flew in on these wires, and I was talking to people being translated. And, when you start in this industry, you have these dreams, and they're that you're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to get fancy cars, and you've got all these monetary dreams, because that's how you measure it, especially when I started, because it was so much more blingy back then with the cars. And those things happen, but the thing that you don't expect to have happen is when you go to a foreign country and you're being translated to a foreign language, and people that you have never met, that maybe saw you on a videotape or saw you in a conference or something, and they come up to you and they tell you that something that you said impacted them and changed their lives. Mm-hmm. It's the most amazing feeling that you ever get, and it just blew me away. To have these people stand in line to take pictures with me and to hug me and to say, I heard what you had to say, and what you said and your story gave me hope and made me think that I could change my life. And there is nothing that you will ever do. And no amount of money that I will ever earn or reward that I will win or all these things that happen that will ever equal that.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I will tell you it's the same for me.
Yeah, is there anything better than that?
The connection with the world, the connection with the people.
Do you ever think that you start this and somebody shows you a product and one day people from all over the world, you're just, it's like the whole world, it's a connection. It's just amazing.
And it's visible. I mean, in a lot of other ways it's invisible, but this makes it visible.
Yeah, it's just
real.
That's it.
So, Lisa, here's what I will tell you. Thank you
My pleasure.
for sharing your story. That's kind of brave to be able to go out and offer that up for the lessons that other people could learn from it. And, I hope that they appreciate it. I know I appreciate
Well, I
it.
thank you.
I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so
You
much.
know,
All right.
you're gonna get to this one. The most awkward kiss ever on tape.
Very good.
Anyway, here's my wish for you, all of you watching, that you decide to become a network marketing professional, that you decide to go pro. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a better way. Let's go tell the world. Here from Dallas, Texas, with my friend, Lisa Grossman. Everybody, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.